Are we recording? Right, everybody, welcome back to yet another episode of Against All Odds. And as I say on every episode, this is a purely selfish podcast because I invite people on who inspire me so I can showcase them to you. And today I've got one hell of a woman all the way over in New Zealand. It's Helen Dennis, the whole life coach. How are you, my lovely?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. I am amazing. Thank you. Yes, like I said, I've just had my coffee. It's a little bit early, but I'm here for it. I'm here for it. And I'm super honored. And when I got the invite, I was like, what? You've had so many cool people on here that I follow and I look up to. So I was like, yeah, I'm super excited to get stuck in.
Oh, that's amazing. So I've got to tell everybody, so I'm filming this 7 o'clock in UK time. At 7 o'clock at night. It's 6 o'clock in the morning for Helen, and she just looks absolutely incredible. 6 o'clock in the morning. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm not
I'm
jealous
living
at
in the
all.
future. I'm definitely
Right,
living in the future.
so you weren't born in New Zealand, you are a UK girl.
Yes.
And tell me your inspirational journey of how you ended up in New Zealand.
Okay. Yes, so you can probably tell by my accent that I'm not a New Zealander. So I was born and bred in Middlesbrough, sunny Middlesbrough. And so my husband and I, who we weren't married at the time, we were dating, we traveled a bit in our early 20s. So I had a deep desire from when I was probably 17 to see the world, go out, and I just wanted to know that I would, like, how do I know how I want to live if I don't know like what's out there, right? And there wasn't really anybody else that was doing that around me. When I grew up, we didn't travel, right? Like I didn't actually know until my mother passed away that she had a fear of leaving the house, like leaving for like on a journey, like she could go to work
Right.
and stuff. But she didn't want to be more than a couple of hours away from home. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that until I was like 26. So I don't know where this feeling come from, but it was just in me that I wanted to go out and see things. And then when I met my now husband, he had absolutely zero desire to do that. And I was kind of like, well, I'm going. So like, but I was saying that, but I didn't know if I really would have gone on my own. But I just thought I just need to move with this feeling. Anyway, like planted the seed, like we do. And after a couple of years, of like saving, and he come round to it. And then my brother and his partner kind of went off traveling. So we saw what was going on there. And then we just were like, let's do it. Let's get a visa for Australia, a year's visa. And in those days, you could get like a round the world ticket, and you had so many flights, and you just had to be like there and back within the year. So it was just, we didn't want to come to New Zealand, like it wasn't a destiny. I don't even think I really knew. I knew Australia, right? But I didn't know New Zealand. So we ended up traveling. We did America, Tahiti, Cook Islands. And when we got to the Cook Islands, so woven into all this situation was when I was 13, my mother got diagnosed with breast cancer, and she got treatment for it. And then she was in like that 5-year gap where they're waiting to you've been remission, but you've been completely cleared. And that was kind of on and off for quite some time, like since I was 13. And as we were going on this world trip, when I got to the Cook Islands, I remember actually I was in Tahiti, and we were so drunk, it was terrible. But I was young. I was on the phone back home because in those days we didn't have mobile phones. There was nothing. So this is like 20 years ago, no longer actually. Yeah, no, 20 years ago. And I was on the phone back home, and I got told that the treatment that my mother was getting was no longer working. So I needed to make a decision then. So we ended up getting on that flight. I'm actually surprised we were allowed to get on there, to be honest. Got to the Cook Islands. And then I ended up flying home, leaving Gary in the Cook Islands, and I flew home. And she wasn't great, but as soon as I arrived home, she didn't know I was coming home. She said, "What the bloody hell are you doing here? Get a flight booked, get back over there." So I ended up spending about 6 weeks at home, went back to the Cook Islands. And at this point, I said to Gary, like, it's not looking good. I can't do a year in Australia. Like, I don't know what's happening here. So we ended up coming to New Zealand, and we did a camper van trip. We did all around the North Island, all around the South Island. And then we made the decision to fly back to England, but we had to go like on our round the world ticket. So we had to go to Australia. We had just 10 days or something then we went to Thailand, and then we were on our way home. And funnily enough, there's a theme here. We were absolutely out of our face drunk. We'd been to a wine buffet. Like, when in Thailand, like, what is a wine buffet? We were from Middlesbrough. We had no idea. We were absolutely steaming. Went to bed. And then the phone rang in the hotel room in Thailand when we were on our way home, and it was my dad and my brother, and they were saying, like, we don't know whether, like, Mum's going to make it through the night. And I was like, what? Like, get her on the phone, like, let me speak to her. So, and while I'm doing that, I'm like, I'm saying, get the cases, get the backpacks, we need to, like, and I'm saying to her, like, don't go anywhere, I'm coming over. And my mum's on the phone, she's in the hospice. She said, where the hell do you think I'm going? I'm stuck in this bed. And I'm just like, and I'm getting told, like, she's literally might be like dead in the next 24 hours, and I'm stuck in this hotel room in Thailand after this bloody wine buffet. So anyway, we ended up being on the phone to back in the living room of the house I grew up in within like less than 24 hours. So then, this is a long story about how we ended up in New Zealand.
I love long stories, mate.
So what happened there was she ended up actually coming home for a couple of weeks after that. Like, she got this new lease, and it was just such a beautiful time for me to spend with her, nursing her at home for the final 2 weeks of her life. So we kind of like were back there we hadn't fulfilled the experience of going and living and working in Australia, which is what we thought we wanted to do. Back home, mother passed away, and there was this awkward time of, I want to leave. My mother's just passed away. My dad has just lost his wife. Like, my brother just lost his mother. My mother's sisters had just lost the sister. Like, and it was a lot. And I just knew I didn't want the life that I would potentially create there. And what I'd seen when we were traveling, it was unfinished business. So we spent 2 years back in England, and it was really, really it was a really hard time for me, like very, very stressful. Not only was I not dealing with my own grief, but I was trying to manage everybody else's experience, and it was not a good time. And then we ended up saving some money and then going back around the world, but the other way. But because we'd had a taster of New Zealand, we were like, let's just go back and see what happens. So we kind of like did a little bit of a few stopovers on the way back to New Zealand, and we literally arrived with a backpack each. But what our mindset was when we arrived was, what's the worst that can happen, right? Like, there's only me and you, we haven't got kids. If we can't afford food, it's just me and you that go hungry, right? It doesn't matter. And we made an agreement that we would be prepared to do whatever it took. And there's this saying that, like, let me get this right, a ping pong pom, right? Where people will move from England to Australia or New Zealand, get here, get homesick, think that they've made the wrong decision, go back to England, only to realize it was the right decision to come back, right? And I said, we're not doing that, right? We're just going, and we're going to do, and my husband was on board, we'll do whatever it takes. And what that looked like when we first arrived was, we actually lived in a tent for a while when we come to New Zealand. And I had no formal qualifications. I dropped out like school. I I think my highest grade was like a C, and it was in child development, which is like, you know, I haven't got kids. I didn't want to work with kids. Like what, like useless.
Yeah, it just
But we
wasn't for you.
no, I'm like, we just need to do whatever it takes, and like we did, and that's how it all began, really, just with that. So it was a bit of traveling, a bit of like my mother passing away, and that actually fueled me even more to be like,
Yeah,
well, we don't know how long we've got left, right? Like, we need to go and do this, we need to go and try this. And by that time, because my husband we'd done that little bit of traveling, he was on board. And
yeah,
actually, funnily enough, we left early because I was so sick. I was so stressed. I was sick in the UK, really not well. And he said, I think we were due to like leaving in October or something. And in July, I said, we need to get out. You need to get out of here. We're going. And we just went. Like, yeah. So quite
yeah.
the tale there.
So because you've got Crohn's, haven't you? So was that diagnosed? When was that diagnosed? That was in the
So
UK, wasn't it?
that was in the UK. Yeah. So I like to think of myself as like I don't have Crohn's disease anymore, but I don't identify as somebody that no. But that is the illness that like kind of was the that was like the blowout, if you like. So the way I think about it is, and I'm sure there's many women that will relate to this conversation, where I was probably in Weight Watchers, like whatever the minimum age is for you to be able to go to Weight Watchers. I was there getting weighed every week, Weight Watchers meals, doing all the things with my mother, because that's what you did, you know. And the high sugar, low fat, but still like overweight and unhealthy. And that was kind of like the way that was where my nutrition was for many, many, many years. Big drinker, very heavy drinker. And there was so many signs in my body that things weren't going well, like with my stomach. And I had like, I think it was called like esophagitis or something, like burns up my esophagus. I would take the medication that I'd been given and the stuff that I used to have to drink to the pub in a backpack. So I could drink that, and then I could drink all the cider. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you know, all
Yeah,
that stuff. And then so my stomach was always a weak point for me. And what happened, just an accumulation of neglecting myself, not looking after myself, not eating well, but not knowing, right? That was the thing. I didn't know. I just was so uneducated when it comes around to health, wellness, all of that. Just absolutely. I thought I was doing the right thing, going to Weight Watchers. And what happened after my mother passed away was just through the sheer stress of that situation. It wasn't, for me in hindsight, her actually passing away. It was what come after that. It was the
yeah,
stress, the and like kind of being made to feel shame and guilt for decisions that I was making. I was trying to control everybody else's experience, look after everybody else at my own,
yeah, yeah,
detriment. And that's just where it ended up blowing out as Crohn's disease. So in that 2 years that I was at home, I was in so much pain every day. I would drive to work and I wouldn't even be able to sit up in the car. I would be doubled over. I would be going to the bathroom like 25, 30 times a day,
yeah,
going there to be sick, but nothing coming. Oh, it was just but it was undiagnosed for a long time. And then when it finally got diagnosed, I was so relieved, because it's like, oh, I'm not going out of my mind. Got put on
yeah, yeah,
steroids. Things like once I got diagnosed, things happened quite quickly to what I thought was coming right, but what it was kind of going the other way. Steroids, blowing up like a balloon. And actually, when I come to New Zealand, I was still on steroids. Like I was
right,
weaning off them, because the need to get me to a point where the inflammation was down, but also what am I going to be on, what they told me for the rest of my life? What was that medication? What did it look like? What was the dosage? So there was a
yeah,
lot of work now. But it was clear to Gary, like my partner and now husband, that the environment that I was living in was contributing significantly to the stress that I was under.
yeah.
it was that's how it kind of like come about, the diagnosis. But I firmly believe that we've all got a weak point in our body. Some people it's the skin, right, with eczema. Some people it's migraines. For me, it was always my stomach. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's so common because I mean I've spoken to you before because I was diagnosed with colitis. And you are right, stress is a massive impact like on your gut. So it's not just what you eat, it's what you're around as well. So I massively back everything you say about that because I know you sent me the whole 30 diet. I've
Yeah.
de-stressed. Everything's a lot better. Not perfect, but a lot better than it was.
Yeah.
So I completely agree with everything you're saying. So did you change your diet as well?
Yeah,
Like,
and I mean, yeah, I did, but it was, I mean, like it's took me a long time to figure out, like, it was a very lonely journey as well, because nobody was, I mean, it's incurable, right? Like that's
yeah,
what the saying. So being told that it was incurable, and even now they still say that, right? Even yeah, so it was. There was a lot of like self experimentation there, a lot of like reading my own blood tests. Yeah,
yeah.
an educated girl from Middlesbrough, like learning. And I think it's easy for us to outsource our health, right? And our body always knows, right? And you will know that you would have had nudges, right? Your body's like, hey,
Yeah,
Amy,
yeah,
hey,
yeah, yeah,
it's me, prod, I'm over here.
yeah,
It's not really working out for me. And like, I just didn't, I mean, it wasn't even like I couldn't hear it. I didn't even know that it was a thing. Like, but we get, there's signs, there's signs, there's signs, there's signs. There's nudges, there's little whispers, and we're powering on, right? We're not like, and I think as women, we can also, and this was certainly me, is like there's my body and then there's me. And the body was fat, it was toxic, there was cellulite, it was not the shape that I wanted it to be, it wasn't the size that I wanted it to be. And we can just detach ourselves from it, where really like our body loves us and all it's trying to do is keep us healthy, well, all of the things. And I think back to the struggle and stress that my body was under, and you're right, the stress that's going on up here, the environment that I was in, what I was putting in it, all of that stuff. And it just compounds, like our bodies can cope with like a poor diet to a point, right? Our bodies can cope with stress to a point. Our bodies can cope with the environmental things to a point. But once you like put it all together in a melt, it like for me, it's like it just combust, right?
yeah,
And it's like
yeah,
I'd almost feel lucky that I only got Crohn's disease, right? Because there's many other people that would get something so much worse. And what happened with what I did, I tried to go gluten and dairy free like 20 years ago. And the doing that at that point, I remember I used to get on a bus half an hour down in Middlesbrough town centre to the only shop that did the bread. I'm saying bread because God knows what it was. It was like a foam mattress.
yeah,
It's like a foam mattress, and the fake milk, whatever that was 20 years ago, it wasn't what, and it was just, it wasn't impossible, but it was expensive, it wasn't available. But I just had this knowing, right? Like this knowing that that's what I needed to do. But I didn't really have like the knowledge around it.
yeah,
And so it's been an interesting journey to unravel and learn more and stripping my diet back. And like I shared with you, the whole 30 for me was where it all began. So that's just like an elimination diet where you do it for 30 days and then you introduce these foods back in. So when I did that, I realized like gluten and dairy for me at that time, and I still choose to be gluten and dairy free, but I could probably tolerate a bit now because I've healed. But that showed me that whoa, it was like a punch in the face going without it for that time, and then reintroducing things systematically. I was like, okay, that's my body going, that's not good for you. But
yeah,
it's my choice whether I listen, right? And I didn't listen for a long time. I was like, oh, I'll be all right having this, I'll be all right having that. But what I did over this course of the experiments was I was monitoring my inflammation levels. And there was starting a pattern to appear of when I did a whole 30, and again, it's just for 30 days, my inflammation went from like here down to here. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, so, but nobody was, when I was getting the blood test, because I had to have regular blood tests with the medication I was on, because as usual with medication, it's doing one thing, but it's also being
So
detrimental.
doing another, yeah, that's the, yeah.
And it was toxic to my liver. So I used to get regular blood tests, but nobody ever, the doctor never rang me and went, wow, your inflammation levels have drastically decreased. What have you been doing? They just were like, oh yeah, it's decreased. That's good. And when they went back up, they weren't going, oh, they've gone back up. What are you doing? They were going, oh, they're back up. She's got Crohn's disease. So the only person that was actually looking at at what was going on was me. And then I started to look for more holistic practitioners that could help me unravel whatever this was, because I didn't know. All I had was evidence that when I'm doing this thing, it's down, and when I'm not, it's up, and then just trial and error, you know. And it's a lot of lifestyle change, but it's so easy to do it these days, right? Like
Yeah,
in the olden days when you were eating the full mattress and doing other
yeah.
things, it wasn't. But now there's so many other options available. But even to this day, I've never proactively been taught to about nutrition when it comes to my Crohn's disease after 20 years. And I've got a specialist even still now who's at the top of his game, who lectures around the world. And when I say it to him, he says, oh, do you think that your nutrition is contribute? I'm like,
And this is the thing, isn't it?
yeah. And I
Yeah,
don't want to knock, like like there's a lot of great, amazing people. And when I talk about this, I think of you and your experience with the medical profession, right? So many amazing people out there doing amazing things. But there's an element of self-responsibility as well, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but what we tend to do is we outsource our health, and it should be a collaboration. It shouldn't be just like, why would any doctor or specialist care about my health more than me? Like, they shouldn't, right? Like, I should be I'm my own advocate. It's my body, it's my life. And I do still go and see specialists, and we've got a strong history of cancer. I've got a specialist that I go and see around like breast health and things like that, and ovarian health. But it's a collaboration. I see the medical profession. I listen to what I know in myself is right, and I also do research and seek out other holistic ways of doing things as well. And then I make a decision based on that. But so often we can just outsource. And what I find is, and this was me, right? I was living the life, and then I was getting the medication to prop up the life that I'd created, the
yeah.
stress that created, the environment, the food I was eating, all the damage I was doing, and the drinking, instead of actually going, well, if I sort this out, I actually, not only do I not need the medication, but I will be able to heal most, not all, of the damage that I've already done to myself. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, I talk a lot in groups at the moment, so there's a lot of research been going on with the gut brain axis, thankfully. So they're now proving that most gut problems are stress related and environment related. But stress is massively linked to things, and it's like IBS at the minute. I think, is it 1 in 4 adults in the UK have IBS or gut
It doesn't
problem?
surprise me, right? Like, it doesn't.
Yeah, but the doctors all prescribe them medication for IBS instead of going, right, how about we de-stress you, you eat like a more Mediterranean diet, you do a bit of exercise. But they don't say that. It's like, here, have a tablet.
There's no money in that, is there, right? And
Yeah,
he's my conspiracy theorist going to come out now, but there's no money in healthy people, right? Like, and yeah, there's a lot of people that have got well through medication, and I mean, it for me, it was I got told I needed to be on the medication for the rest of my life. The medication I was on was what people would take who've had an organ transplant.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I, like I was told that like it's your body attacking itself, but like your body doesn't attack itself, right? Your body is trying to keep you well. And there's if we were all well and we did all the right things, like we ate well and we moved well and we looked after our mental health well, then we wouldn't be as sick as we are. But we try and do, and I mean, we can speak to women, right? Because
yeah,
we've got experience in that, right? We do so much and we put so much pressure on ourselves to do all of the things, and our bodies are an inconvenience and they're not right, and we want to change them. And it's we can just, there's so much negative self-talk that goes on there as well. But what I also realized is I couldn't heal a body that I hated, right? Like, what was that? How much stress was I putting on my body? Yes, there's the mental load and the mental stress, but what stress was I putting on it by the way that I was eating? What stress was I putting on it with the way that I was talking about myself
yeah,
to
yeah,
myself, right? So there's all this other underlying stress that we have as women. I know that because of the women that I work with, but it's just, there's so many different stresses I feel, right?
yeah,
Like there's life stress, like the external stress that we're dealing with, the deadlines, the pressure, but then there's all of that other internal stress that we put on ourselves as well. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, absolutely right. And I think I completely agree with what you say about like medication and like healthy people aren't worth anything to the pharmacist.
No, 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 no.
I
It's a massive
completely get
industry.
that. You know,
Mm.
it's everywhere at the minute because they're basically saying, you know, Mediterranean diet is like not only helping gut issues, but it's also like helping like massively in depression and anxiety because, you know, tryptophan's made in our stomach, which goes up and turns into serotonin, yet the doctors will still hand out an antidepressant, and then 15 years later when somebody's been on antidepressants they're still depressed.
Yeah. But they're not, they wouldn't even be talking to them. And I mean, I'm not saying every doctor, but most doctors won't talk to them about lifestyle changes, about, all the work that you do, that I do, that we've done together around where you're focusing your attention, your energy levels, movement. And the worst thing about it all is it's basic shit. It's
It is.
so basic. It doesn't mean
Yeah,
it's easy. It's basic. But the society that we've created, and the lifestyle and the food that we eat and the expectations that we have on ourselves, it's like snowballed, and we're so far removed from just who we are, like, as we're nature, right? Like, and this is something that, like, we can say, oh, we'll go outside into nature. So it's like nature is outside of us, right?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
but what we've done is we've put ourselves in boxes. Like, literally, I'm sat in a box now in the office at home, like in my box of a house. I've just got out the box of the bedroom, and then I'll go drive in my box of the car. Like, but we are nature, and we that's what we need to remember as well, is like what's natural to us, what do we need to thrive, and what, it's basic, it's so basic, but it's hard because the what we've created for ourselves is this like the societal structure of how we will behave in the workplace, what we'll be putting in our body, all the stuff that gets marketed to us, that you go to the doctor when you're sick, and then you get the medicine, and then you get the other medicine because of that medicine's caused that other thing that you didn't have before. But and what we really need to do is just strip it all back, right? Like, and that's where I feel personally that that's where the happiness is, right? That's, it's not outside, it's yeah, once we can be healthy, we can be well, and like, you're my brain person, like looking after ourselves mentally and physically,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
it's a different life. It's a different
yeah.
life.
You are so right. It is basic stuff. But I think people have got to, in the world that we live in, people go, oh, it can't be that easy though.
Uh,
Can't be that
uh,
easy.
yeah. Yeah. And what do? We go and get the supplement, the one thing that's that one thing I'm missing. It's that protein shake I'm missing. It's that supplement I'm missing. It's that style of workout that I need to do, right? Like and again, we're outsourcing, right? We're taking the power out of ourselves and putting it in that one thing instead of going, hang on, let's just strip it back. What am I doing here? How am I, and this is what I had to deal with, right? How am I contributing to my
Yeah,
own business? Why do I not want to why do I not want to get rid of this Crohn's disease?
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I often talk to people about, our brains haven't changed since evolution. Like, it hasn't changed at
We
all.
have
It's
our
still,
bodies.
yeah, it's still got the same brain chemicals, still got the same brain parts. It's the world that's changed around us, and our brains and bodies haven't. Yet we are expecting for us to be all right in the modern world, where it's full of social media, where we don't have to, like, where if we go on a journey, we can just use sat nav instead of using a map now, so we're not having to think that way. It's like you go to the supermarket, you can just go and get a ding meal, so you've not got to think about, right, what food am I putting in, because it's like instant gratification. Like with a ding meal, everything's rushed. Like
Yeah.
I say, with we're not designed to live in boxes. We're designed to
Mhm.
be in open spaces. We're
Mhm.
designed to mingle and be sociable because we lived in
Mhm.
tribes, but now we're all, it's worse since COVID because everybody was separated. So everything's changed, yet we expect ourselves to be all right.
Yeah, how can you thrive, right? Like, and this is the other thing as well, and it's something that I've always had in my mind is I want to be optimum, right? I don't just want to be well. And this is what even when I still had Crohn's disease, I was like, this isn't for me. This is not what I want. Like, how can I operate and be the optimum? And maybe there's a little bit of like my mother passing away when she was 54, and like I
Mm,
want to live as long as I can. I want to be as healthy as I can be. Like, what does that look like? Not in a crazy way, but just like, what are the little things that I can do just to look after myself? And you're right, like there's so much that's changed around us and the expectations that we have on ourselves. But it is, when you strip it back to what we need as a human being, like as nature, because that's what we are. Like, it's not, we don't need that much to thrive, but we think we do because that's what society tells us that we need to do. And when you look, I mean, I have these like I like to cut well, I've had about 15 midlife crises throughout my years, but I say to my husband, like, what are we doing? Like I'm a questioner by nature and I question myself all the time. Not in a bad way, but in like okay, this is where we are. Is this what we want? This is where we're going. Is this still what we want? And I'm like, we go to work to pay for, I mean, we've got like, we live in like what was at one point my dream home. Like we've lived in a tent and now we're in it. Like, and I'm like, even now we're here, which is absolutely incredible. But I go, what are we doing? So we've got this amazing house, and then we go to work to pay for the insurance on it. We go to work to pay for the rates bill. We go to work to pay for the gas. And I'm like, so you build this thing, and then you have to like create this lifestyle to pay for this thing. I said, what if we just sold everything and like went traveling again? Gary's like, well, like I need a bit of time. But I just question, like what are we doing? What standards have we set for ourselves? Which is now we've had to build this thing around it to prop this up, if that makes sense, like the status of this, of like what society and what we're supposed to be doing, right? Like I
yeah, yeah.
always question that. Yeah.
I think it's important too, though, because I think it's quite easy to fall into the loop
100%
of,
in the loop.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And that was one thing, like we thought we were going to have kids as well, right? Like, and I have no doubt, absolutely no doubt, if I'd have stayed in Middlesbrough, that we would have had kids. And actually, when we come to New Zealand, we thought we might have as well. But again, just questioning, because it's easy, right? That's what you do. You go to school, some people go to university. I was like literally drop out of work at 16. You find your partner, you get married, you buy the house, you have the kids, you work another 30 years or whatever that looks like, you retire, maybe you do a bit of traveling and then you die, right? But in my mind, I'm like, well, my mother never got to retirement. Like, so I'm 46. If I've only got 8 years left, she died at 54. Not in a morbid way. What are we doing? What are we doing? Like we need to hurry up and live, right? Like we can't just get stuck in a rut. But just it's the same for all of us. We just don't know how long we've got left. So how are we living?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's like an important thing you've said, because not a lot of people think that way. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of people would have, the mum passed away and then think, okay, this is it. But you had a mindset that got you out of that. Not only got you out of that, but got you to a completely different country as well. With
Yeah.
that, let's see what we can do. But I often find, you know, how you said about, right, we do this and then we get married and we have the kids and everything like that. I think when something goes wrong in that area, that's when people struggle the most, because all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, like, I fell out of line. My world's just turned upside down. I feel lost, stuck. Like I
Well,
shouldn't
they
be.
did everything right. And what's wrong with them because they couldn't make it work when they see
Yeah,
it get modeled around them. But the reality is what they're getting seen modeled around them, which is da, 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 da. Are these people happy? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Everyone's going through the motions, and how many women, and we know because we work with them, do everything right that, and then they get to a point and they go, is this it? They're not even happy with
yeah, yeah,
what we've created. And or they might have, like, you know, they got married, they had the kids, and then the kids are like and they've been so entrenched in bringing up the children and stuff, and then all of a sudden they're going, who am I? What do
yeah,
I want? Like, and I think especially like when you get like in your 40s as well, like there's a lot of like going, am I just doing this for another 20 years? Like what does this look like? Right? Like, and because of this urgency that I feel like I've got to live, like, well, live, like my version of that, it's different for everybody. I said to Gary, like, I said to him, what would we do when we retire? And he said, well, we travel, right? We love travel. I said, well, we might not get there. So what we're doing now is doing a month away every year. I said, let's do 1 month. It took a while. I had to plant the seed, you know, like you do. You plant, let it
You'll
water
have to
the
let me know
seed.
your tricks on that,
Yeah,
mate.
yeah. Oh, yeah. I'll tell you all about that. We've been together 24 years. I can tell you all about that. So I know what I need to be doing. And then so this was just in 2019, actually. And then of course when lockdown, so nothing happened. So you had plenty of time to think about it. But I said, what if we traveled for a month every year for the next 12 years? And then that means that in 12 years' time, we've traveled for a year of that, you know, because what if we don't get to retirement? What if, and that could be either of us, right? So
Yeah,
now, and because and for those that don't know, Amy and I are in a coaching program together, and we always get like pushed of like bigger, what else could it be, like, you know, like that impossible dream. Like I love an impossible dream. So that to me was impossible because I'm employed full time as well as having my coaching business. My husband's employed full time. How do we do that? We didn't know. And then once he come round to agreeing to that, going, oh well, maybe I thought, what could be better? Why don't we do that in addition to our other 4 weeks that we get off? So this would mean we would only work 10 months of the year. Impossible,
yeah,
right? We're in our second year of doing that. But it's just that, what can we do? How do we want to live? Normal is being in a job 40 hours a week until we are 60, 65. It's probably what, 70, 75 by the time we get there. And
yeah,
then
yeah,
we could be dead. Right. So how do we start living and making sure that we're pulling our life towards us? So if we want, why would we wait to travel, right? When we're fit, healthy now. And then I'm like, and we've got the rest of our lives to make that money back if we need to, right? And there's a
yeah,
balance there. Because if my husband thought like me, we'd be bankrupt. if I thought like him, we wouldn't have left Middlesbrough. So there's that balance of, you know, we keep each other right, but how are we living? That's the question that I think we need to be asking ourselves. Are we what's our, if we keep going the way we are, what's the trajectory of our life looking like? And that could be in any area, right? That could be around your health, wellness, body, relationships, just general
Yeah.
living, traveling. What makes you happy,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
That's it. That's amazing. So, yeah, like you say, you do coach women. So tell me all about that. When did you start doing that, and tell me what's involved in it?
Well, I originally got involved in coaching in the beginning through that whole 30 protocol that I was telling you about. So they ended up getting, we had to do like training to be able to coach people through this program. Because when you've ate a certain way and done a certain thing, it's hard to just change. And
Yeah.
what I realized as I was coaching women through, so the whole 30 originated in America, so it's very well known over there, not here. And I think it might be a little bit more popular in the UK now. But back then, about 6, 7 years ago, it wasn't very popular. But what I realized very quickly when I was coaching the women is it wasn't about the food itself. It wasn't about the ailments that they had. Like there was women that were aching, the joints were aching, or they were depressed, or they had brain fog. And a lot of this was getting resolved. But what I realized was that they could almost do the 30 days and they could do the reintroduction. But what they struggled with the most was making long-term change and the emotional connection. And I knew from my own journey, the emotional connection that we have to food and the mindset around and the conditioning that we have from how we've been brought up and even society, like we've just talked about, that was the thing. It wasn't the food. It was so much more than that. And when I would reflect on my own journey of what I needed to change and how hard it was for me to do that. And again, it was like quite a lonely journey because nobody else was doing it. I was going way against the grain. No one around me was doing any of that. I didn't know anybody online that was doing anything that I was doing. And this is like back in the day. I didn't want any woman to have to do what I'd gone through. I wanted to be able to take what I'd learned, my knowledge, and just be able to say this, you know,
Yeah.
here it's in a box, right? Because there was a lot of trial and error. But also the main part of it was actually getting them to be in tune with their body, because it's not about what I'm doing. It's about what's right for you, right? And working that out and being able to get back to trusting what they were feeling was actually, you know, that was
Yeah.
guiding them the right way. And then from that, that's how I got into the mindset coaching. That's when we would have started working with Paul Mort and just knowing the power of the mindset work. And then looking back to like my outlook and what I would think, what got me here? How did we go from tent to dream home? How did I go from Crohn's disease to health and vitality? How is mine and Gary's relationship been so good for so long? Like, and I looked at it all and I'm like, it's mindset. And
Yeah.
just knowing that we can have anything that we want, right? Like at that, I mean, I feel like I'm evidence of that. Like I've proven it to myself over and over that I can create the seemingly impossible. And what I've got might not everyone wants that, right? Like we've all got our own hopes and dreams, but let's not waste a minute not like settling, right? That's we're here once, as
Yeah.
far as I'm aware, maybe more,
Yeah.
but we're only in this life once, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's how I got into it, because I could just see the potential and the power of getting a handle on your mindset, getting a handle on your body and mind connection, and just like you said about the relationships, the connection that we need, you know, like, and then there's the mental and physical health, and then you know, like, and I use the same structure that we've used in our own coaching, is like the finance side of it, the health and wellness side, the business and career side. How can we actually lift everything? Because through that whole 30 coaching, what I learned was all women were trying to do was make the, yes, there was ailments, but ultimately they wanted to make the body smaller. That, and I'm
Yeah,
like, that's what we need to excel in our career, and our bodies need to be skinny. That's like, as women, that's what we get told, that's what we need to do. And there's a lot of undoing there, right? Like, we can actually be full of health and vitality, successful in business and our career. We can build the wealth, we can have a ton of fun while we're doing it, and let's live, let's be alive, because there's so many of us, just like I was, wandering through life not feeling alive. How do we
yeah,
get that back? Yeah.
yeah. And it's so easy to get stuck in a rut as well, isn't it? So do you find the women that have come to you like have like had a life challenge or lost the way, or because I often
Yeah.
ask people like, do do you find it's when people are really have had enough of their own shit that will come to you?
Yes. So I think they get fed up of, I know what I want, but I've spent 10 years trying to get it. And they'll
Yeah,
go a bit and stop and go a bit and stop. Or they might be just really unhappy in the career, but they've got this nagging feeling inside that something needs to change. Or they might be unhappy in their relationship, or most women probably come to me because they want to get a handle on their own limits. I feel like the negative self-talk, like the know that they're made for more,
yeah,
but they just don't know how. And the the way that they talk to themselves and the way that they treat themselves is they're just fed up of that, right?
yeah,
And they
yeah,
know that there's more out there. Yeah. And it sometimes it doesn't have to be much more, right? Like, sometimes women like, a lot of my clients are successful women, but they're limiting themselves, or they're not as confident, or they want to overcome the self-doubt. So if they walk into like a boardroom, or they want to step into leadership, you know, like, how do we do that in an empowered way that's actually going to, one of my things that I like to teach women to do is achieve more by doing less, right?
yes,
And like, that's my gig, like that's my thing, because that's what I've been able to do, and that's what I want to teach them, is it doesn't have to be hard. Again, how do we simplify it? And we can simplify it by learning a different way. And
yeah,
once we enjoy our career or our business, we enjoy our relationships, and we have fun while we're doing it, you know, like, and or being able to overcome the self-doubt. But one thing that I do notice about women is we don't dream and think big enough. Our goal, like, and that's usually, as we know, why women aren't getting what they want, because the goals are shit and they're not really looking
yeah,
beyond that small goal. And that's why they just keep stuck, because they've got no bigger vision, no bigger drive. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you find there's a fear attached to that as well? Like, because
Oh, yes.
I talk to a lot of people, and it's like they can't see bigger, and it is purely fear that's holding them back.
Yeah, and there's a lot of around, like, fear of what I will be if I have that, fear of who I will lose if I change, who do I need to become, which means I'm not going to be the person I am now, fear of stepping out of the, what were you saying earlier? Like, it's not the rat race, but that, like, the norm, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
and what does it look like? Fear. I've had women that fear success, because
yeah,
if I step out and I'm seen, what, like, I don't want everyone knowing who I am, or everyone looking at me. Like, and again, but again, it comes back to, it's all up here, right? Like,
yeah,
just like the food thing is, and the limitations that we put on ourselves, and the cage that we, you know, like, if you think about when you're younger and everything's possible, and as we get older, we just bring this cage down and we end up suffocating ourselves. So breaking free of that and going, what if,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
If you could do and you knew that you couldn't fail, what would you be doing? Like, let's start there and work backwards from that. But 100% fear that they won't have what it takes, fear that they don't know enough, that they're not good enough, that they don't deserve it. And you think about all the things that we got told when we were growing up around, oh, just be grateful for what you've got. Like, you've got an ice cream, my brother's got
Yeah.
an ice cream or whatever. And I'm looking at it, or you just be grateful for what you've got. I want never gets.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I want
The good
probably
one
does
is,
get, like,
yeah, children should be seen and not heard. There's a lot of people that struggle with public speaking, and it tends to be like an adult,
yeah,
like the
yeah,
pastor said, children. And we are so unaware, especially when we're
yes,
younger, that these sayings that like parents and grandparents say to us actually stick in our heads,
don't
and
get
we
too
live
big.
by them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't get too big for your boots. Um, the higher you rise, the more you fall, whatever it looks like. Money is the root of all evil. All of the, and the other thing I was thinking about the other day, around just how comfortable we are, right? Like, so it's winter here, it's getting into winter. And I'm sick of hearing everyone's stories on Instagram around how it's heating up in the UK, because I'm like, it's freezing here. But my time will come. But I was thinking about, like, when I was going out and what like how we heat the house and then we heat the car. I've literally got heated seats and a heated steering wheel. We go out for a walk, we're wrapping up. And what I've started doing is going, actually, I'm just going to take a layer off and let my body heat itself up. We don't even give our bodies the opportunity to heat itself, right? Like, we're just walking around in comfort. Like, we've got central heating all around us. We just never put ourselves out of our comfort zone ever. And remember when we would get, oh, you'll catch your death out there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, you'll catch your death. Like, well, I'm probably not going to, but it's that we are told, wrap up, you can't go out with your hair wet to catch your death. Like, well, but it's like we get told that everything, we need to be small, we need to be comfortable. And this is literally something I've just started this year, is thinking like about how do I get my body to even just simple thing like that, like not going out fully wrapped up from head to toe in like a sleeping bag, right?
Yeah.
Like, let me just take a couple of layers off and let my body do what my body's designed to do, which is feel cold and then heat itself up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Basic, right? Like, it's just, but
Yeah.
we walk around with this level of comfort. Even
Yeah.
we walk around the house with a level of comfort of warm or cool if you're in a hot climate and you're cooling them. We're adjusting our environment to keep us comfortable all the time.
Yeah.
All of the time. And again, it's not natural, right? We should be, and this is why I believe that people are getting into the ice baths and they're getting into the big, but actually just going outside and not like having a central heating system with all the stuff that you're wearing, it is also like,
Yeah.
let's start doing a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I was having a conversation the other day about, can you list how many like one sentences that your mum's or your dad or your grandparents said to you that
Yes.
are actually like, you sit there now and you think, oh my God, I've been living like that for 40 years because they just dropped a comment when I was little.
And also, how are we teaching other like my niece, my nephews, like how am I programming them unbeknowing, right? In
Yeah.
our behaviors, our actions, what we're saying, what am I modeling to them? What behaviors am I showing? Am I showing like, oh, I'm not that confident, I'm hiding, I don't want to speak up? Or am I showing somebody that's like, you get to actually speak up, you get to say what you want, you get to ask for what you want, you get to go after what you want? Like,
Yeah.
why can't you speak back to me? Why can't
Yeah.
you negotiate with me? It's a skill.
That's it. That saying, I want never get, seems to have been a popular one.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It's like all of a sudden when people start actually saying what they want, they automatically start feeling needed. It's like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
Like, we are
Because
here.
I should be grateful
What we
for
want.
what I've got. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it goes hand in hand, right? The fact, like, to be grateful for what you've got and know that you are enough exactly as you are, even without everything you've got, you're still enough. But then the other side to that coin of of deserving even more of that. Like it's that self-worth thing, that one, you are enough exactly as you are, but the other side to the coin is, because you are enough and you deserve the very best, that's why we need to be like growing and evolving and striving. Because if we're not growing and evolving, again, we're nature, right? We're
Yeah.
dying.
Yeah.
If we're not, anything in nature, if it's not changing, growing, evolving, it's dying.
Yeah.
But we stick so much to like staying the same. We just want to stay the same, but it's impossible. We're nature again. It's like we're designed to grow, evolve, even just getting older and time passing and growing into, like, we owe it to ourselves to grow into the best version that we can be in this lifetime. Why would we
Yeah.
not? What's the worst
Yeah.
that can happen?
You are so
And
right.
that's the other question. What's the worst that can happen? Move to
Yeah.
New Zealand. What's the worst that can happen? I might end up coming home. You know, I'll do this job that I don't even know I can do. I actually applied for a job that I didn't even know what it was, and I got it. And I'm like, what's the worst that can happen? I'll just leave. You
Is
know,
it now?
like
I need to ask you about this. Did you when you went for an interview when you first got there, did you buy a suit
yeah.
from a charity shop that was the wrong size or something?
Yes. How did you know that? But
No,
I do
I seen it
gotta
on a
say,
podcast clip that you did before with somebody
oh,
a few
I
months
did.
back.
Yes, we were living in a tent, and we had our backpack, and this was like when we moved to New Zealand. Like this was like this in this time, like I'm still here kind of thing. And I had a job interview for the job for the company I work for now, and I went past a second-hand shop. It was in Wellington in the North Island, and there was a suit in there from Next. But Next isn't in New Zealand, so obviously somebody had like got rid of it. They must have brought it over from the UK, and it was huge, and it was a shirt. It was just the worst suit. I think back, I'm like, what the hell? And I had to get Gary to like get the shirt I had underneath and pull it and put safety pins down the back. So I was all pinned up down my back. The suit itself was huge. The pants were safety pinned up. So I'm walking in this place like a mummy because I'm all pinned up. And then I went for my interview. And then because we were living in a tent, I went back to the campsite, and I remember like, because then we had a mobile phone because we were living here, and I was trying to get signal on my phone to see if I'd got this job. Like I look back, I'm just like, what? And why did they hire me? I'm just like, like I applied for the job, and what I thought it was and what it was two completely different things. But I didn't have the skill set. But the reason they employed me was because of my attitude, the energy, and the thought, we can teach her all this other stuff. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
she's got this willing. She's willing. I mean, they didn't know that I had my suit pinned together. And yeah, then I got the job, and the rest is history. Yeah, I'm
And you've
actually
been there
still
ever
working.
since.
Well, I left for a short time and went to work for a client, and then I've come back, and I've been back like 11 years. Yeah. But
Oh,
the job itself and the company has evolved so much that what I'm doing, it's like I've worked for 8 different companies. But again, it's because I keep pushing myself. What next? What next? What next? Yeah.
I love that. That
Yeah.
that
So
that question is so important. What next? So, what is next for
yeah.
you this year, mate? What have you got coming?
Oh wow. Wow. Well, so talk about getting out my comfort zone. So I've got an event for women in Christchurch tomorrow that I'm hosting with my friends. So that's going to be an in-person full day event. So everything I do is online. So I coach women in the UK, in America, in Australia, New Zealand, wherever, Europe. And so this is my first in-person, like official event with my friend that we're doing, which I'm super excited about. Then for the month of August, we're off to Bali for a month. So that's our month away. And then we've got other little holidays dotted around in between that. But yeah, just building the whole life coach business, helping as many women as I can, as quickly as I can. That's what I'll be doing for the rest of this year. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. So, anybody that wants to find you, where can on social media? Where are you?
I am at the whole life coach
Yeah.
on everything. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I hang around on Instagram. That's my place. I'll be on Instagram. So yeah, I'll be It'll be all barley in August. Yeah, I won't be complaining about. I won't be complaining about the winter then, will I?
Oh, do you know what? You inspire me so much. Like, it's been
Likewise.
absolutely fantastic to have you on episode, and I love seeing all the people that you help.
Thank
And
you.
I just love how you strip it back to like the simple stuff.
Yeah, and we can all do it. It's not exclusive to the people on Instagram. It's not exclusive to me and to you. We're just normal people, right? Like we're just women doing the do, and it's available for everybody. Like we've all got limitations. We've all got our own box that we've put ourselves in. But yeah, to get out of that and live in the way that we want, it's basic, you know, and the work that you do with the brain coaching and stuff like that. And again, like it's so powerful. And we need more of us. We need more women saying, yeah, I need help. Because they do, and we do, right? We have a coach, don't we?
Yeah,
Right? Like it's not
exactly.
we haven't even got there, right? Like you never get there. It's evolution, constant growing, you know. And even in the time we've worked like as peers inside that group program, like what we've achieved during that time just by reaching out and going, who can help me? And we're different people than we were 4 or 5 years ago when we started that. It just goes to show the power.
Yeah, absolutely. You just got to ask and take action.
100%. What it's all about, as we know.
Well, it's been really good to see you again, my lovely. It's been 2 years. It was 2 years we actually met face to face.
I know. Oh my God, I couldn't believe it when I saw you in real life. I was just like, oh, but yeah. I can actually remember like giving you a cuddle when I saw you. It was so.
You were the highlight of my day. Morty probably be offended by that, but I can't lie.
He will definitely be offended by that. Yeah.
Bless him. Well, thank you. Everybody that's listened, head over to Helen's page on Instagram and Facebook. Are you on Threads?
So what was that?
Are you on the Threads app?
Oh, yes, I am.
Yes, I'll put our live page on there as well. I shall pop all the links, but give her a follow, pop her a message, because like I say, she does work with people worldwide and you won't regret it. She has fantastic results. So thank you, my lovely, for joining me. Thank you for getting up early and looking so
I'm going to have my
breakfast
now. Yeah.
I'll see you soon.
See ya.
Bye.